Hello, everyone. We're going to get this stream started here in a couple of minutes. Until then, enjoy the tunes. Looks like the stream started the first time. I don't know. Dead is Lying, thank you so much for joining on Twitch. Dead Bluebird X, thank you so much for joining on Twitch. Black NYC, thank you so much for joining on Twitch. JCS, thank you so much. Rogbar, thank you so much. All the love on Twitch, I appreciate it. Jigglypuff, hi. Let's watch this. I agree. Lord Ludacris with Shaken. Mr. Fox, you won. Ass. Or is it ass? Justin S. What's shaking? Pete Garcia, are we watching Ross and Grush interview here? Man, I've been looking. Yes, that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna have ourselves a little watch party live stream. We will pause, skip commercials. Won't be live, just in case. You know, we got to do commentary on it, make sure that we're covered. But let's do this. What's shaking, everyone? How you doing? Welcome. It is Sunday night. I was not expecting to do this live stream whatsoever. John P. Adventures, thank you so much for the pink waving hand and diamond glasses, purple. I don't know what that. Can't see that right now, but that's what the text says, and I feel the love. Thank you, Grant Lavac. What's shaking? Beautiful Grant Lavac. How on earth does Goofon have 4.5 thousand followers? Does he really right now? I guess people are that desperate to watch it. I don't know. Let's switch over to our layout here. So this is what we're gonna have, guys. Fair use. This is transformative work. We are educating the public and critiquing the videos that we are sharing. This is covered under fair use and allowable by law. So we will be saying that a few times again through this show. So as soon as, let's see here, it's supposed to start at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard, 9 p.m. Eastern. So we'll check back in. I'll keep an eye on it for you guys, obviously. And I'll turn the volume up once it's appropriate. I don't know, I've been watching a little bit of this News Nation since I subscribed to Level News for you guys. I'm doing well, East Coast Tina. Thank you for being here. Jigglypuff. Did I already say hi? Michael Huntington. What's shaking? Disclosure has arrived again. Soon is here. Soon has arrived. Welcome to soon. How was everyone's weekend? Hope everybody had a good weekend. I was chilling. I wasn't chilling. I was working the whole weekend. But it was good. It was a good weekend. Otherwise, filmed some stuff today. Earning your trust every night. Laughing my ass off. I think Gillibrand's saying that some programs have been understood or they don't know what it is was about David Grush. You think so? Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah. No, I read it again. That makes sense. It's possible. I mean, it is. I think it's telling that she hasn't said anything, and then I think it's also telling that the House Select Committee on Intelligence has also unequivocally, I mean, we covered in the last show how they wore each other's ties. And they both said, they are firm on this, both Republicans and Democrats, that there was no proof. They even asked in not only public settings, but private settings. No proof of any sort of reverse engineered programs in the past or present. And that's what Arrow said. And the DOD has expressed. Man, it's interesting. Tony Somai. Tony Mahoney. Is that right? Did I write that right? Yep, Tony Mahoney. It took me a little while. Thank you so much, UFO. Majestic Q clearance for the $1.99 donation. Director's chair and the words on set. Love it. Love it. Thank you so much. Slept all morning. Good for you. Building a garden, East Coast Tina. I love it. It sounds like good weekends. That's good. I hope everybody got away from this for a couple days. I know I did. I tried. I mean, I always, of course, check in with the Twitter when I can between rides. But yeah, look at this, guys. Trump indicted 2024. What do you think? Is he gonna get away with it like he does everything else? We'll see. I was an avid listener of USR. Just found your new show. Hey, thanks, Tony Mahoney. Welcome. Just FYI, we try to throw as much logic on the UFO discussion as possible. So we shoot down a lot of terrible information, in our opinion. So if you don't like that, you know, might want to step away. Lock them up, please. We'll see. I don't know, man. This guy's slippery as smoke. He really is. I agree, Tony Mahoney. Definitely much needed. News Nation streaming this. They're streaming it. I mean, you have to pay for it. So yeah, we're gonna have, you know, a little bit of music playing in the background. Actually, you know what? Let me set the volume on this while we got the time. Put that there. And then raise this a little bit. Let's see. Oh, there we go.
Question remains, are we alone? And in less than an hour, News Nation will be diving into that question during a 1 hour long special with investigative reporter Ross Coulthart. And then stay around as News Nation's senior national correspondent Brian Enton will be joining Coulthart live, breaking all of that down, these whistleblower claims. And Brian joining us in studio tonight with a preview of tonight's special. Always good to see you, Brian. These are big claims. What are we going to hear tonight that we have not heard before?
It's good to see you too, Natasha. You know, this is such wild stuff. I mean, it really is hard to wrap your mind around. We've been reporting on it for about a week now. You've heard a little bit of what David Grush has to say. But tonight, a little less than an hour from now, you're going to hear the full conversation with this whistleblower, and there is so much more that we haven't heard. He actually claims that there is this crash retrieval program, that the U.S. government has this program in secret, that they've never talked about it before, that other countries also have crash retrieval programs, and that they've managed to keep it all under wraps for decades, that they actually are storing non-human craft right now. Listen to a little bit of what David Grush has to say.
What conclusion did you come to at the end of your time on the UAP task force?
The UAP task force was refused access to a broad crash retrieval program.
When you say crash retrieval, what do you mean?
These are retrieving non-human origin technical vehicles, you know, call it spacecraft if you will, non-human, exotic origin vehicles that have either landed or crashed.
We have spacecraft from another species.
We do, yeah.
How many?
Quite a number.
6.
You're kidding. No.
No,
I thought it was totally nuts, and I thought at first I was being deceived. It was a ruse. People started confiding in me. They approached me. I have plenty of current and former senior intelligence officers that came to me, many of which I knew almost my whole career, that confided in me. They were a part of a program. They named the program. I've never heard of it. And they told me, based on their oral testimony, and they provided me documents and other proof, that there was, in fact, a program that the UAP task force was not read into.
And what makes this so interesting and credible, Natasha, is this is a former high-level U.S. intelligence official. He is an Air Force veteran. He was on the UAP task force for quite some time. He was read in on all of this, which you know makes you wonder. I mean, why would this guy be making it up now?
Right, so highly credentialed. I do appreciate that point. And there is so much public
He's
interest
got a resume.
in this. I don't think it is a coincidence that every single other major network all of a sudden is airing tons of UFO and UAP stories right now. Also, importantly, Congress is launching an investigation. What are, in response to all of this, in response to these claims, what are you tracking there?
So the House Oversight Committee has taken notice of this interview. Plus, he's filed the official whistleblower complaint to Congress and also to the to several intelligence agencies. And he's gone on the record. I mean, he's been under oath, actually testified as part of that whistleblower complaint. So they were already aware of him. Now that our story has come out, they've actually said that they are going to have congressional hearings on this.
Absolutely.
So we're going to learn a lot more.
Okay, and we'll learn more tonight as well. Brian Enton, thank you. I know if you stick around, you will see him later tonight. And don't forget to tune in, hear those new about the alleged secret government program as part of this hour-long special. We Are Not Alone. The UFO Whistleblower Speaks. It's debuting exclusively on News Nation right here at 9 p.m. Eastern. And stay around as News Nation's Brian Enton will be joining Ross Coulthart live, breaking down these whistleblower claims. That is happening at 10 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on News Nation.
2 hours?
All right, still ahead on News Nation Prime, the suspect accused
I didn't know I was signing up for 2 hours of Ross Coulthart.
U.S. soil tonight.
News Nation.
How police are connecting.
Jesus, good Lord. All right, looks like we're gonna have to wait a little bit. All right, back to the tunes. Back to the tunes, man. Let's see. Let's see here. Yeah, it looks like they're gonna milk us. You guys, this is gonna be a huge just. Yeah, I think this is gonna suck. They're gonna tease this for 2 hours and give us the new stuff after the first hour 45. And then we'll get 15 minutes, the last 15 minutes with a commercial break. And we're speaking of, you know what? I should probably go back to this just until those commercials are over. You know what? Let me turn this down. Jesus. Look at the slider. I'm not live. What are you talking about? I'm live on YouTube, bub. Right? Should be. Says I am. Yeah. I'm watching it right now. There's 182 people watching. Come on, man. Don't do that to me. Good Lord. Jesus. We got a whole bunch of people, new people in here. Welcome, new people. If you're tuning in, we're watching the News Nation Grush, the Grush Rush, Dave Grush, new interview with Ross Coulthart, award-winning journalist Ross Coulthart. So looks like the first tease here on News Nation, if you're just tuning in, it was stuff we already heard. Nothing new at all. I have a feeling this is going to be, they said it's supposed to premiere at 6 o'clock. It's already 6 o'clock, or excuse me, 9 o'clock East Coast time. It's 6 o'clock here on the West Coast. Yeah. So I have a feeling they're just going to tease it and tease it and tease it. All right, we're back on. But they're talking about Jordan Vandersloot pleads not guilty in an Alabama court. Yeah, I've been watching a little bit of this News Nation. Oh man, it's pretty right-wing stuff, man. Pretty right-wing stuff. This whole UFO discussion has a real lean to the right. And when I asked my journalist friend Chris, he was like, well, you know, the right loves defense talk. They love supporting military. They love, you know, anywhere where they could get money to fund more toys, they'll look for. And so, yeah, I don't know. Just so you guys can see what I'm seeing here. Oopsies. Oopsies. There we go. Oh, the News Nation hasn't caught up is what you guys are saying? Ooh, wow. Look at that. Okay, I see what you're saying. Now I see what you're saying, guys. All right, let's see here. Don't worry, I got your back. And that works too. It works anyway. It works out because now we don't have to, you know, do the whole... I mean, we still got to do the whole fair use thing, but, you know. Anyway, it's not live like I wanted, so that's good. All right, you guys ready? Is everyone ready? You know what? Whoever said I was stupid before, you were right. I wasn't paying attention to that part. What do you want? What do you want from me? I'm not perfect. I'm not perfect. All right. Let me turn down the music again for you guys. And then we'll go ahead and play this. No, don't ask your doctor about anything about la 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 la. All right.
First time a former senior military intelligence officer comes forward to say what we've only imagined is true.
You are saying to the human race, for the first time, we are not alone.
At least you're laughing.
We're definitely not alone.
That's good.
Claims that our government has proof of alien life.
We have spacecraft from another species.
We do, yeah.
How many?
Quite a number. Some are landed, some are crashed.
Allegations of a secret government program that has hidden the truth, the technology, from the world.
There's a sophisticated disinformation campaign targeting the U.S. populace, which is extremely unethical and immoral, and it's totally frightening.
From Roswell to the present day.
We're all going against the wind. The wind's 120 knots from the west.
There are non-prosaic cases, 100% unexplainable. I mean, this is like tangible technical craft they're seeing.
Is this decorated officer a liar?
Why should we believe you?
A fool?
Is it possible that you're deluding yourself?
Or a hero?
I'm a patriot, and I believe in truth to power in this.
We're talking about the biggest secret in human history.
Uh-oh.
We are not alone.
We're not alone.
The UFO whistleblower speaks.
Come on now.
Good evening. I'm Elizabeth Vargas, here to bring you a News Nation exclusive interview with a man we're calling the UFO whistleblower. David Grush is a career intelligence official who this week is making some bombshell claims of a U.S. government cover-up going back nearly a century, shedding light, he says, on that existential question. Are we alone? News Nation has confirmed David Grush's credentials and resume. We have not seen or verified the alleged proof he says he's provided to investigators. But we want you to hear his story so you can decide for yourself. Mr. Grush sat down with investigative journalist Ross Coulthart, who is reporting for News Nation. Mr. Coulthart is an award-winning journalist and author who is...
You know what, man? They always say this about... Just, why don't they ever say the award? Say the award. It's always an award-winning journalist.
Reported for the Australian version of 60 Minutes, as well as other news programs in his home country. What you're about to see is part of their conversation, touching on Mr. Grush's work with the UAP task force, his background and his service to this country, and the alleged secret military program about which he says the world needs to know.
For decades, the UFO question has been consigned to the...
guys, I have to talk over this. So if you're gonna yell at me for not talking, sorry, I'm gonna talk over parts of this. So, you know, there'll be other versions, people that put out in 20 or 30 minutes. Let's all just chill out and relax. It'll be fine. Don't worry. There's not gonna be anything in here that's gonna change the world. I promise you.
To the realm of speculation, conspiracy theory, and science fiction.
Can you say E.T.?
E.T.
Great, E.T.
But in
footage.
recent years,
Yay.
serious people have started taking the subject seriously.
You'll see it come through the top of the screen. There it goes.
Prompted in part by the release of these videos, purporting to show encounters between American naval aviators and what the Pentagon has labelled unidentified aerial or anomalous phenomena. Congress has convened hearings to determine what these UAP are and what threat they might pose.
If UAP do indeed represent a potential threat to our security, then the capabilities, systems, processes, and sources we use to observe, record, study, or analyze these phenomena need to be classified at appropriate levels.
The Department of Defense has established a special team, formerly known as the UAP Task Force, recently renamed the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, or ARROW, to investigate and identify what are now
40 miles an
hundreds
hour.
of reported sightings.
Probably a bird.
So far,
Don't know
they
the
have
distance.
not confirmed any of them to constitute proof of
Definitely
alien life.
drones.
Officially, the government continues to state, we are indeed alone. But now, for the first time, a former member of that official investigative team is speaking out, telling a stunning story that impacts every person on this planet. And now you're about to meet that man for the very first time in this exclusive television interview.
This is the second time we've met him.
Welcome. Have a seat. Maybe start off telling me your name and who you are.
My name is David Grush. You know, I came from a blue-collar family in Pittsburgh. I didn't have the money for college. Always admired people in uniform. And I've always wanted to be a part of something bigger than myself. You know, 18 years ago, you know, I got an Air Force scholarship for physics. I originally commissioned on active duty in the Air Force. Served 14 years in the Air Force.
I look at this photograph, Dave, and I see a very proud officer.
I was getting promoted to captain when I was deployed.
And you still love your country, don't you?
Absolutely.
A career intelligence officer, Grush spent time on the ground in Afghanistan and other places he can't mention before rotating back to Washington.
I was an intel officer for the U.S. for 14 years. My last position, which I left in April of 2023.
All of the military talk and all of the feel of propaganda in this on this station, man.
I co-led the UAP portfolio for the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, and some of the highest officials within the Department of Defense and Intelligence community used to call on me to advise them on some of the hardest target sets that the country had.
You are one of the most trusted former intelligence officials in the US defense and intelligence establishment.
Yes, I was.
You were trusted with the most intimate secrets.
Yes.
And he says the most earth-shattering of those secrets were revealed after 2019, when he was invited to join the UAP task force. You had the security classifications to go anywhere and ask anyone anything.
I had, based on my formal security clearance and multiple polygraphs, I had the ability to be read into any program that I needed. At one point in time, I was extremely highly cleared.
What conclusion did you come to at the end of your time on the UAP task force?
The UAP task force was refused access to a broad crash retrieval program.
When you say crash retrieval, what do you mean?
These are retrieving non-human origin technical vehicles, you know, call it spacecraft if you will, non-human, exotic origin vehicles that have either landed or crashed.
We have spacecraft from another species.
We do, yeah.
How many?
Quite a number.
You're kidding.
No. I thought it was totally nuts, and I thought at first I was being deceived. It was a ruse. People started confiding in me. They approached me. I have plenty of current and former senior intelligence officers that came to me, many of which I knew almost my whole career, that confided in me. They were a part of a program. They named the program. I've never heard of it. And they told me, based on their oral testimony, and they provided me documents and other proof, that there was, in fact, a program that the UAP task force was not read into.
You are alleging that the US government has been concealing the existence on this planet of alien life.
I would couch it as non-human intelligence, you know, NHI, like we like to say in our language.
Why do you say that? Why do you say NHI?
I don't want to necessarily denote origin. I don't think we have all the data to say, oh, they're coming from a certain location, and I couch it as somebody who studied physics, where maybe they're coming from a different physical dimension, as described in quantum mechanics. We know there's extra dimensions due to high energy particle collisions, etc. And there's a theoretical framework to explain that. Yeah.
Just let me cut to the quick though. You're saying there is an intelligent species engaging with this planet?
Yes, that's potentially extraterrestrial. Yeah.
I speak for everybody sitting at home. That is a shock.
Wow.
It was to me, and I had a lot of sleepless nights.
Grush says he's never personally seen non-human intelligence, but he's spoken to...
He's never personally seen non-human intelligence. He has no proof of this whatsoever. It sounds sexy. It sounded sexy when he said it, right? Like I would have lost my shit like probably half the chat is right now. 8-10 months ago.
To enough people directly involved in what he calls the program that he's convinced it's real.
I started out as a non-believer. I came to the problem as a hardcore physics guy, intel officer, so I have a, you know, excuse my language, high factor. I was very methodical, interviewing people who didn't know each other, making sure this wasn't some kind of cover-up of some other program.
He says he pressed to gain direct access to this program, and that's when his trouble started. Grush claims his investigation was stymied, his requests for access rebuffed.
They shut the door in my face. They denied me access to these programs.
Soon after, he says, he endured reprisals and retaliation from above. He then reported that information to the Intelligence Community Inspector General. That's why he's filed this whistleblower complaint. He says that experience is why he decided to go public here and in a recent article written by Leslie Kane in The Debrief. You're not being paid for this interview?
No, I'm not.
Why are you doing this?
It's a sense of service, you know, call me a Boy Scout or whatever. It just, when I saw the kind of wrongdoing I did, I don't want to be 60, 70 years old in the future and have that, you know, coulda, shoulda, woulda kind of feeling where I could have made a difference. I do not want to live a life of regret.
You are saying to the human race, for the first time, an official intelligence representative at a high level from the US government is saying publicly, we are not alone.
We're definitely not alone. Absolutely, the data points empirically that we're not alone, yeah.
You've said
100%
that we have, the United States has spacecraft, intact craft.
We do.
Do we have bodies? Do we have species of
Well, naturally, when you recover something that's either landed or crashed, sometimes you encounter dead pilots. And believe it or not, as fantastical as that sounds, it's true.
Have you seen spacecraft?
I've seen some interesting photos and I've read some very interesting reports.
But he says the specific documents and photos that would prove his claims are still classified, and he cannot disclose them here. Let's deal with the issue of your credibility. Why should we believe you? You're just somebody coming out of nowhere, making claims that we really ultimately can't prove.
Yeah. Well, we provided the proof internally to the Inspector General and the Hill staff, and we went into all the details. I mean, I have the credentials. I was an intelligence officer on the UAP task force.
But let's face it, allegations of aliens and their spacecraft are hard to accept, even coming from a respected insider.
Trust me, bro, they're real. Trust me, bro. I saw a guy, and then a guy told me, and then I looked into the thing, and I didn't see anything that would be 100% convincing it was aliens, but there's 100% for sure, yeah, you got it, it's real. He just like said two things at once.
Even if you call them NHI and UAP, how could such NHI travel to Earth in the first place and go undetected by the general public? Grush says the craft may not be travelling through space as we understand it.
It is a well-established fact, at least mathematically and based on empirical observation and analysis, that there most likely are physical additional spatial dimensions. And you could imagine in 4 and 5D space where what we experience as linear time ends up being a physical dimension in higher dimensional space, where if you were living there, you could translate across what we perceive as a linear flow. So there is a possibility that, and this is a theory here, I'm not saying this is 100% the case, but it could be that this is not necessarily extraterrestrial, and it's actually coming from a higher dimensional physical space that might be co-located, you know, right here.
What can you tell me about these craft, these technologies? Why do you know it's exotic?
Based on the very specific properties that I was briefed on, you know, isotopic ratios that would have to be engineered for it to be at those levels, but also just extremely strange, heavy atomic metal, you know, high up in the periodic table arrangements that we don't understand, you know, what the emergent properties are, but there's just a very strange mix of elements.
So you're absolutely
isotopes. Where we heard this stuff before, man?
sure that the materials that these craft are made of are clearly not of this Earth.
Yeah, they're sophisticatedly engineered, certainly not by humans.
And while Grush says the US has gleaned some insight from these materials for military use, so much more could be done if academia and the private sector had access.
It's totally nuts that humanity as a whole, especially, you know, the US citizenry as a whole, they're not even benefiting from broad research on this to solve, you know, propulsion, energy issues, novel material science.
Why are they adding sound effects to the city and the stock footage of the windmills? There's like wind howling right now. That is the weirdest thing I've ever seen in a news program.
Science that can improve people's quality of life. It's just totally nuts how it's been protected and inhibits progress.
If you're right, if you're telling us the truth, everyone, the entire American public, has been lied to for decades.
Yeah, there's a sophisticated disinformation campaign targeting the U.S. populace, which is extremely unethical and immoral.
Coming up, how long has this been going on?
A lot of the things I was briefed on were very shocking.
Okay, shocking.
Pass the doubt.
Let's see.
Probably.
I'm gonna do that and do this. You guys, so what do you think so far? All right, here we go. We got, it's coming here. What do we think so far? Before we get on, these are, again, these are huge claims, big claims, and we have not seen one document, one photo, one scientific property or test or anything classified whatsoever. Nothing classified whatsoever. So this idea that alien bodies and recovered non-human intelligent vehicles wouldn't be classified information right now. They have a problem releasing footage of balloons in our atmosphere. and Ross Coulthart and the GRUSH Rush can just talk about alien bodies and spacecraft with 100% certainty? Definitely have it. We definitely have it. Trust me, bro. It's there. Trust me. I don't understand how that works. I don't understand how a guy who leaks classified information on a Discord server has a military personnel and cavalcade come to his home to arrest him for sharing classified documents on a public server. And this is somehow real classified insider stuff. It's staring you right in the face, guys. It's staring you right in the face. And somebody who has seen zero proof of this tech or body's existence is telling you with 100% certainty these things were not made by human hands. Can't say that because he didn't see them. He didn't touch them. He didn't put them under a microscope. He didn't run the isotopic tests. He didn't do anything. He wasn't in a lab. He wasn't even on site. He didn't have access to those things, according to him. Or maybe he did. He just didn't go. I don't know. I have no clue. Anyway, I just had to say that. He provided his proof to Congress. That doesn't make it legal to share on a news program. And if Congress is so confident in this, why are they not commenting on it? Why are they not backing this veteran up? This person who served, who fought for our country. Why are they not backing him up when he comes out and is this world-changing whistleblower? Where are they? Dead ass silent. And it's not because some of them can't comment because there's an IG investigation going on, even though his attorneys have now left him because that has been settled as far as the complaints of corporate terrorism is concerned, but we don't know what the judgment's been. We have no clue. So I mean, dude, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense that they'd be able to share this kind of information. Zero. Makes zero sense. And also, and Zach Saichi made a beautiful point. I have to share this point. Actually, I retweeted it. Let me see here. You know what, let's go to Zach's profile. And Zach used to have a killer podcast on UFOs, and he's got such an amazing story. If you can go back and watch this guy's podcast and his journey through this whole UFO shit show, his mom was a real big believer, and it was a big part of his childhood. And when his mom died, he felt like it happened at the exact same time that the 2017 article dropped, or she died right before that happened, and she didn't get to see it. And he had like this internal mission to find the truth about this. And he has an interview with Lou Elizondo, and he's asking really wonderful questions, and he gets sick of this shit. He got burnt out, not because it was people were picking on him or anything, or he had a meltdown. It was because he just found it to be bullshit. And he writes this thing: just consider for a moment that it's all true. Aliens are real. UFOs piloted by aliens. They regularly crash or land here. And every single time, somehow, the United States government is able to step in and keep it all secret. Every single time, even if it happens outside of the United States. Do you know how logistically difficult that would be for our military? It's not the movies, you guys. They don't have these SEAL teams. They're going to drop in and pick up every piece of alien tech off the ground in 2 hours. Like, that's not going to happen. And why don't these things crash in major cities? Even like, you know, Jakarta, Cape Town, you know, Thailand, anywhere, Vietnam, Japan, like Tokyo. There's so many countries and other places that these things could have crashed where people would have been able to film it. It maybe would have killed, like, what if it crashes into New York City? Why would an alien civilization send out tech that had the capability of possibly killing other intelligent life? What if that intelligent life is smarter than you and they retaliate because you killed the president or something like that? It's just insane. Anyway, all right, let's get back to this. Let's get back to it, shall we? Oh, let me pop this up. All right, there we go.
Mm-hmm. You say it's a 90-year cover-up?
Just about, yeah.
90 years?
1933 was the first recovery in Europe, in Magenta, Italy. They recovered a partially intact vehicle.
It's long been known that the regime of dictator Benito Mussolini documented numerous UAP during this time. This internal memo from the Italian secret services includes crude drawings of the UAPs.
It's true. It's real. Yeah, that actually happened. Italian government moved it to a secure air base in Italy for the rest of kind of the fascist regime until 1944, 1945. And, you know, the Pope Pius XII back-channeled that.
So the Vatican was involved?
Yeah, and told the Americans what the Italians had, and we ended up scooping it.
So let me be very clear about this. You're saying that the Catholic Church, the Vatican, they know about the existence of non-human intelligence on this planet?
Certainly.
Oh, shit,
Grush
man.
says shortly after the dawn of the atomic age,
Trust me, bro.
another major crash recovery took...
Not only... I'll rewind it. Don't worry, guys. Not only does he know that the government has this technology, but he knows the Vatican does as well. And the German crash that they're talking about is the alleged Die Glocke, right? Or Die Glock. It's the translated to the bell in German. This is the biggest bullshit story in UFO lore history. And this is the example he cites when he's talking about this being real. If the Nazis had something like that, I think they would have won the war. I think a lot of people would have seen it. Oh, man. Dude, that is... How is that not a red flag?
Non-human intelligence on this planet?
Certainly.
Grush says shortly after the dawn of the atomic age, another major crash recovery took place. You've probably heard of it.
Oh.
What can you tell me about the Roswell craft?
Fortunately, those details were not approved for me to talk about right now.
This much we know. In 1947, an object crashed in the New Mexico desert near the town of Roswell. The Air Force recovered material described as metallic and rubber.
Dude, I'm sorry, guys. Like, Robert Salas, we heard on the Matt Ford show the clip of the UAPTF task force interviewing, or was it Arrow? I believe it was Arrow that interviewed him for, you know, the Whistleblower Act. And he shared part of that interview on his show. And both of the guys that interviewed Robert Salas said, look, and I'm paraphrasing here, but they were basically like, look, those files don't exist. Those things, the things that you want us to go look for, they're gone. It's been buried, and that's not our fault. That happened decades ago. We can't find any of this stuff. And yet the 1933 bell is sitting there, no problem. And the Roswell information is sitting there, no problem. They can't find Robert Salas's nuclear weapon shutdown stuff. because it's just gotten lost to history, but they can find this stuff.
Rubbery, though the government changed its story as to what it was, calling it a flying disc at first, then a weather or spy balloon.
It just read ridiculous to me that the US Air Force had changed its story.
Yeah, and they added additional elements over time and tried to conflate additional programs to explain some of the events.
Why are these things crashing?
Yeah, you know, some are landed, some are crashed, and I think that's an interesting discussion that's come up, you know, as advanced as, you know, we are, you know, as humans, right? You know, planes crash, cars crash. Just because you're some advanced sentience that has advanced technology doesn't mean some small percentage of your, I'll use the Air Force term like sorties, you know, meet an unfortunate operational conclusion, as we might want to say.
Most people would tell you the Roswell incident has been thoroughly debunked. In fact, the Air Force published this report in 1994 to put the issue to rest once and for all. Grush has read it.
That analysis they did was a total hack job, and even anybody with analytical skills, if you read it, you can deduce that they're conflating multiple situations with crash test dummies and mogul balloons, and they're just saying that the townsfolk who personally witnessed it were totally imagining things. They concocted that whole report.
So they concocted the end result. They concocted the result, but nobody wants to talk about that the entire Roswell story was concocted from the very beginning by the Air Force. Every single part of that story was put out and orchestrated through the Air Force. They knew exactly what they were doing when Roswell happened. They've controlled the narrative since the very beginning. So if you don't believe this part of it because it doesn't fit your belief system, think about the beginning part of it. If you can't trust the Air Force and the government, why are you trusting them on any part of the narrative whatsoever? And that narrative could be a false alien narrative. Very easily. Oh my God, man. It's...
just to disinform.
So the reason for the secrecy exactly is what?
Feudalistic dominance, who can have both asymmetric technology for, it seems like, just fueling the war machine.
Grush says that through the 50s and 60s, encounters with...
machine. He was the war machine. He was the war machine.
The NHI continued, as did the cover-up. One incident in 1967, about which multiple Air Force veterans have gone public, involved UAPs tampering with the nuclear missiles at Malmstrom Air Base in Montana.
They saw a craft appearing to be intelligently controlled,
hovered over
a nuclear weapons silo and shut down 10 nuclear ICBM missiles.
Same guy who's been abducted by aliens as well.
They want to understand how far we've advanced in our nuclear fizzle kind of technologies at the very least. I mean, it looks like preparatory probing activity. It might be innocent kind of scientific gathering, could be ISR probing.
Meanwhile, Grush says the crash retrieval program continued. And while he won't reveal where the downed craft are stored, he does say that the people working with the technology have been putting themselves at risk.
You know, a lot of them, you know, were injured looking at some of this stuff. You can imagine the nuclear, radiological, and biological risk to looking at an unknown unknown. And a lot of them have literally suffered physically because of their service.
But as we know, anyone who's come forward claiming non-human intelligence is behind these incidents has been dismissed as delusional or deliberately deceitful.
If you're right, if you're telling us the truth, everyone, the entire American public, has been lied to for decades.
Yeah, there's a sophisticated disinformation campaign targeting the U.S. populace, which is extremely unethical and immoral.
Coming up,
It's 120 knots from the west.
new evidence and perhaps new attitudes in a new age of UAPs.
The American people.
He just said new evidence. Coming up, new evidence. Let's see what new evidence we get. Oh, I can't wait.
People need and deserve to know more.
Has the US government changed its tune?
Softness. If you've had more.
I don't think they have changed their tune, Rossi. Sorry, Rossi. I don't think they've changed their tune. All right. All right. All right. Also, keep in mind, like, how no other news, serious news entity wanted to touch us with a 10-foot pole. Keep that in mind as well.
These are the videos that started it all. Footage captured by naval aviators on military-grade cameras that defied all prosaic explanation. Dave Grush has investigated this one, shot in 2015 off the East Coast by fighter pilots from the USS Theodore Roosevelt.
There's an industry of debunkers out there on the web who say, oh, they've got this all wrong. It's a jet exhaust at a distance, and the aircraft's turning. Give me an answer on that.
I had some optical engineering experts look at that, and the Raytheon AT FLIR system, based on the pixel saturation and apparent size. It's certainly something that's not a jet. It might be some kind of natural phenomenon that's quite strange, but it's not as simple as a jet.
He has even stronger opinions about this UAP, now known to history as the Tic Tac, shot in 2004 in the Pacific by aviators off the USS Nimitz.
And the Tic Tac?
Truly anomalous, absolutely technical vehicle, physical, and that's absolutely something that we didn't make.
Not of this world.
Most likely, yeah.
The videos were leaked in 2017, then officially released by the Pentagon in 2020. At the time, it seemed the Pentagon...
You think I'm a CIA plant? Oh, fuck, man. You guys fucking kill me. That is hilarious. Yeah. Yeah, because I passed CIA training. I'm clearly a specimen for the CIA. You are a maniac.
Pentagon may have finally abandoned its obsession with secrecy and decided to do what other countries have been doing for decades. Establish a properly funded, publicly accountable team to investigate reports of UAP. Dave Grush was part of that team.
This is a hunt mission for what might somebody be doing in our backyard that we don't know about.
The task force set about investigating these incidents, including more recent events like the odd encounters that took place during naval exercises in 2019 off the coast of San Diego. This video, shot on the USS Omaha and later leaked to documentarian Jeremy Corbell, has received particular attention.
It either zooms off so fast you can't see it, or it sinks into the ocean, but it seems to drop. What do you know about it?
It was truly anomalous.
But Grush says the promised new age of government...
Are all of these, all of them, all of them are anomalous. Truly, truly anomalous. Every single one of them. Every single one of them passes the Grush Rush sniff test.
Transparency is a fallacy. For starters, he says the videos that have been released are just the tip of the iceberg.
There are many videos that are totally fair to release through a declassification process. And I find it very concerning from a transparency perspective that all that the department has declassified were those 3 famous videos. There are more concerning videos.
He's wrong about that. Those videos were not classified. They had existed on servers on the internet. These things were already out there, these videos. Except, I believe, for the Tic Tac. But the Go Fast and the gimbal, which one was it? Do I have those right? I know 2 of the 3 were not classified.
That left me with a lot of questions, yeah.
He says there are credible witnesses who could testify to Congress about spacecraft, big spacecraft.
A lot of them were very large, yeah. Like a football field kind of size. And I remember interviewing these personnel. I'm like, either these people are lying to me, they're having a psychotic break, or this is some crazy but true stuff that's happening, and I have no good explanation that's prosaic at all for this, because this is not explainable by, swamp gas, St. Elmo's fire, ball lightning, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, this is like tangible technical craft they're seeing up close and personal in some cases when I interview people.
And at the centre of it all, the crash retrieval program the government has never publicly acknowledged. A program, Grush says, that's included at least one private aerospace company that is storing alien craft. Is that true?
That is how a lot of these relationships are. While I don't want to name the specific companies and government elements, but overall, the government has been the custodian of a lot of this, right? And they'll hand receipt it out to a cleared defense contractor to do some analysis, which I find highly unethical. You have basically a sole source arrangement, and you allow certain private corporate elements to look at this, develop a potential insight, and then sell it back to the government for profit. And I think that's totally unethical.
The problem you've got is there have been categorical denials from high-level officials in the US government, even presidents, that what you're saying is true.
Unfortunately, some elected officials were not brought in.
Only a few weeks ago, 19th of April, the head of the Pentagon's UAP...
Again, look how many people, look how many congressmen, senators, showed up to a committee with actual power. 2. There's 2. 2. If this was aliens, every seat would be packed in this room. They wouldn't be able to fit anyone in here. It'd be so packed. It'd be the hottest ticket in Washington.
The investigations program, Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, told Congress AARO, that's the Pentagon's UFO investigation body, has found no credible evidence thus far of extraterrestrial activity, off-world technology, or objects that defy the known laws of physics.
While a large number of cases in our holdings remain technically unresolved, this is primarily due to a lack of data associated with those cases.
Was that a lie?
Well, I know Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick. I've known him for about 8 years. And, I expressed some concerns to Dr. Kirkpatrick about a year ago, and I told him what I was starting to uncover. And he didn't follow up with me. And he has my phone number. He could have called me. I hope he ultimately does the right thing. He should be able to make the same investigative discoveries I did. It's totally crazy if he doesn't.
So the implication here is that the head of the very body that Congress has ordered to tell the American public the truth about UAPs is possibly misleading the American public. Do you think the American public is being lied to?
Well, they've been lied to over the years, and I'm hoping that the lies stop.
Coming up, it gets even scarier. The UFO whistleblower says the NHIs aren't all friendly.
Have human beings been hurt or killed by a non-human intelligence?
And guess who they might be working with?
We're in a competition with their adversaries to understand this. And it's a multi-decade Cold War that has been under our nose for so long.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Man, really big claims, you guys. I mean, yeah. It's funny that they rushed this story out before Stephen Greer's big conference tomorrow, which we will be also live streaming tomorrow. We'll be covering that. So come hang out with us tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. West Coast time. It's just wild, man. So he goes to Kirkpatrick and he says all of the things that he just told us, but probably more, right? You would think behind closed doors. I mean, clearly he's telling Ross Coulthart. This interview is so edited, it's insane. There's so many edits in this program. I'm going to be interested to see. I know we already covered a body language expert going over his body language, and it came back pretty neutral. He said he needed to see more of him, and now there's a significant amount more as far as when he makes these claims and some of the things, some of the triggers that he noticed in that first interview. I picked up on this second interview, and I'm going to be interested to see what he comes back with on that, because I mean, obviously he's the expert, right? Dr. G. Yeah, it's not looking good, you guys. It's not looking good. I mean, you know, Kirkpatrick just did a presentation with NASA, and they released a statement through Susan Goff directly talking about these claims, and that there is no programs that they found in the past or the present. So that's with his testimony. That's with his congressional testimony. It's not moving the needle for NASA. It's not moving the needle for the Aero team. But it's moving the needle for News Nation and Ross Coulthart and the debrief. And what's hilarious is Leslie Kane wants nothing to do with everything he's talking about. She just wants to talk about the craft. To go and talk about bodies and recovered alien tech, that's a leap. That's the leap. But the craft, yeah, that's what she wants to stick to. No wonder why the Washington Post was like, thanks, but no thanks. No wonder why the New York Times was like, thanks, but no thanks. Dude, this is, if you think this is, again, if you think this is a spike, you're spiking the football in the end zone, you just won the UFO Super Bowl, you think aliens are real because of anything that this guy's said so far? And where's the new evidence? He promised us new evidence in the other segment. When are we going to get it? Did we get new? Did anybody see new evidence? Anyway, let's go.
Right after the special report with exclusive behind-the-scenes insight from the interview. Skeptic or believer. We have multiple expert panels covering every angle next on News Nation.
Oh boy. They're going hard, News Nation.
In the movies, the aliens are often portrayed as peaceful. Even cuddling.
I'll be right here.
Big phone
it
home,
would
baby.
Be nice if that were true, but Mr. Grush says it's not.
The common interpretation from some commentators is that there is a non-human species, and it's incredibly benevolently well disposed to the human race.
Yeah, and I think that is the logical fallacy there is because they're advanced, they're kind. We'll never really understand full intent in that because we're not them, whatever them is or are. But I think what appears to be malevolent activity has happened. Based on not only nuclear site probing activities, witness testimony. I think at least if we look at it through a humanistic lens, it does appear negative, at least to us.
I've been told that there have been attempts to bring down craft.
Oh boy.
That we've acted offensively
Where have you heard
against
this, Ross?
non-human craft.
Everyone's heard
there
this.
There have been instances, and there are certain techniques.
Have human beings been...
Certain techniques, just like there's certain frequencies. It's the same fucking shit. It's the same thing. Just tweaked here and there. And the new Aero office is like, thanks, but no thanks. We've heard this fucking song before. We've heard this song before. Holy shit. Unreal, dude.
Hurt or killed by a non-human intelligence.
While I can't get into the specifics because that would reveal certain U.S. classified operations, I was briefed by a few individuals on the program that there were malevolent events like that.
Now I'm scared. People have just heard you say non-humans may well have murdered human beings.
That seems to be the case at one point, yeah.
And there's more. Grush says the United States is not the only country that's encountered NHI and their technology. He says our geopolitical rivals have their own crash retrieval programs, which they are also secretly exploiting for military purposes.
We're in a competition with their adversaries to understand this, and it's a multi-decade Cold War that has been under our nose for so long, and you know, there is no good way to level the playing field and hold other nation states accountable if they're doing unethical or illicit activity as it relates to this subject. And I think the obtuse secrecy is actually putting us in a very dangerous position where a country might make a breakthrough. Let's say it's an adversary of ours, and it is so destabilizing.
You say there's been a Cold War behind the scenes with Russia and China.
There has been a Cold War against with our peer adversaries, yeah.
Why hasn't Russia or China come out and spoken publicly about this?
I think they're in a similar, pickle as us, where it's they understand maybe some of the socioeconomic destabilization factors in their own society.
I think the whole world pretty much knows that Russia, China, and the United States have been in a financial Cold War. That's no secret. And there's also, whatever. We're not going to get into geopolitics, but UFOs are not the key to the Cold War between the United States, Russia, and China. They have nothing to do with any alien craft, bodies, or programs. One of my theories when all of this shit started going down last year was the idea of the United States having made a breakthrough, having some really interesting tech. And everything that he's saying, I feel could potentially open a door for something like this. Like, he's talking about China and Russia illegally doing activities on UFO research, and they might make a breakthrough on that technology. And it's our responsibility to beat them to it? Are we going to beat them to it? I wonder if we're going to beat them to it. I mean, Jeremy McGowan kind of said it best. The United States hasn't, since the drop of the nuclear bomb, the world in a lot of ways has caught up to the United States, in some ways surpassed it. And this is exactly what he's talking about in some regards with this Cold War. If we did make a breakthrough, if we do have amazing craft that looks like physics defying, or maybe are physics defying, I'll never put anything past human ingenuity. I've always said that. Never put anything past human ingenuity. And especially an endless budget. And if the military's made a big breakthrough in some kind of craft like that, you're going to put it out there first as UFOs, and you're going to make sure that your enemies see them in certain parts of the world, and make sure that your enemy is the only one who sees maybe that little American flag on the side of it. And that would be a hell of a message to send to your adversaries. It's a theory, zero proof, you know, but it kind of rubs against the whole Stephen Greer false flag narrative. But I don't think they would use them on U.S. citizens if they did have them. I don't think they would use them on adversaries, because it would then show you clear if aliens came from another planet, say, and they only attacked Russia, China, North Korea, Cuba, you know, like, I think everybody would go, oh, gee, I wonder who that could be. I wonder why the aliens are attacking that country. But if you show up in different parts of the world and you're able to subvert missiles and radar systems, and you could just pop up in anywhere, I mean, that would be a pretty stark message. You know, you tell the whole world, yeah, these are aliens, but underneath that, the intelligence that your adversaries gets is, this is ours and we've won, game over. You thought the nuclear bomb was game over. No. This is hands down game over. There's no other country that comes to 1/10 of the spending that the United States spends on the military. On military spending, the war machine that he so eloquently put. No one spends more. By a lot. Wouldn't shock me if humans made a big breakthrough, and this whole UFO smokescreen is a way to start sprinkling that into science, sprinkling pieces of that in the discussion of that in the science. Tell them it's alien, but it's really ours. It's really ours. And we need to make that statement now. I think in this time in history, the United States hasn't had a big jump. You know, a moment like, you know, the Greatest Generation had, like the boom of the 90s. These fake, you know, digital currency booms. I don't know. I mean, maybe we could count those, you know, Google, things like that. Like, there's been no huge breakthrough in how we travel. You know, Tesla cars are the biggest breakthrough that we've had in transportation in a long time. A long time. Our infrastructure's falling apart. It's clear that global trading, there's all sorts of things we could do better and clean up. And I mean, look, it's fun to think about, but you know, who knows? Or it could just be a bunch of guys who believe UFO stories from Hal Puthoff and the Stanford Research Institute and spooky ghosts and werewolves that smoke cigarettes and, you know, wear trench coats and, you know, dino beavers and, you know, all of these same programs and isotopes and yada, 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 yada. No documentation, no proof. The government doesn't believe him. No senators or lawmakers are backing this guy up. If you like this show, subscribe, like, share the show. Truly appreciate it. If you want to support the show, there are links below. Thank you very much. Zach Nunez, I'm done. For fuck's sake. Here we go.
But if this non-human intelligence is so advanced, and at least some of them are malevolent, why haven't they destroyed us already? Perhaps some fragile yet combustible détente has been reached. Grush has written an internal document about his discoveries that refers to agreements that risk putting our future in jeopardy.
And it's quite clear that you're talking about agreements between America and non-human intelligences. Have we made agreements with non-human intelligences?
That's the kind of information I really hope national leadership is able to get to the bottom of.
I need to pin you down on this. Are there agreements between non-human intelligences and the American government?
I think that's a question that I would like to know all the details of as well.
We do know of at least one agreement among humans that's worth noting. This 1971 agreement between the US and the USSR on measures to reduce the risk of nuclear war. Whether or not you believe Dave Grush, this document proves the two superpowers were aware that UAP existed, whatever they were.
If you look at Article 3 of that treaty, it talks about unidentified objects near nuclear facilities or interfering with communications. And that is a treaty that has been used, from what I understand, to notify each other if there's a concerning event.
And that's a way of saying to the Russians, hey, don't shoot at us, it's not us.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly a concern because of the secrecy. There is an environment where you could have almost like a false flag, where true non-prosaic UAP situation could be contrived as, you know, a provocation of something from a nation state, and we want to de-escalate that.
If this is true, if the stakes are so high, if the fate of the human race is at stake, perhaps it's no surprise to hear Grush say the US government will do anything to keep these secrets safe.
Can I put it to you that crimes must have been committed?
At the very least, I saw substantiative evidence that white-collar crime was committed.
Have people been killed?
What does that mean?
To protect the secret?
White-collar crime?
Based on the people I talked to, that was an ongoing concern. Yeah, unfortunately, I've heard some really un-American things I don't want to repeat right now.
So you have a strong suspicion that people have been murdered to protect the secret?
Over the years, yeah.
Coming up, a reality check.
Is it possible that you're deluding yourself?
It's time to put our whistleblower's credibility to the test.
Everybody watching this right now is looking at your face. They're going, is this guy for real?
Is this guy for real? Is this guy for real? If you guys are new to the show, you've never seen the show, we were the top UFO show of all time. We had Lou Elizondo on 7 times. We turned it out he kind of isn't cool. And so we bailed on that narrative. And here we are. All right, here we go. Can I admit that Ross is doing a decent job? No. Ross shouldn't be doing this interview. There's no facts. He's just saying these things. I cannot underline and express that enough. He's just saying these things. There's no proof. But soon, right around the corner, something's coming. Don't worry. And alien bot, all of that. Don't you worry. It's all coming. It's been coming for a while.
Grush doesn't.
6061.
Let's talk about what Dave Grush doesn't have. He doesn't have smoking gun documents or photos. He doesn't have official confirmation of his claims. He's just a guy talking on camera, and a lot of his answers to our most pointed questions sound like this.
Can you comment?
Unfortunately, I cannot.
So who is this guy really?
I don't want fame or fortune. I'm just here to provide public leadership on an issue that I uncovered, and I thought it was totally outrageous.
News Nation has confirmed through multiple sources that Dave Grush is who he says he is, an Air Force veteran from Pittsburgh who worked in military intelligence and was part of the UAP task force. Maybe he's just a confident, well-spoken, ex-military intelligence officer who just happens to have lost his mind.
Do you have any kind of mental illness?
No.
Have you ever had a psychosis, a delusion?
No.
Is there anything in your medical history that might be capable of being interpreted as a reason why you might be confabulating, making things up?
No, I'm not a disgruntled employee. I resigned on my own accord because I thought altruistically it's more appropriate to show thought leadership on the outside on this now, because I hit an impasse within the government to try to right this wrong.
So I've got to be blunt about this. You're not making this up. This is not a lie.
No, absolutely not.
Because everybody watching this right now is looking at your face. They're going, is this guy for real?
I am for real. And I'm sitting here at great personal risk and obvious professional risk by talking to you today.
You've told us that we really are not alone. Even though you believe what you say is true, you haven't been fed disinformation. It's a common thing in intelligence for governments to mislead.
Yeah, I was very sensitive to that fact. Was this some kind of ruse against me? Am I being used in any kind of way? And I took about 4 years being very methodical before I filed my whistleblower complaint to be absolutely certain of these basic facts.
So take me through the process of how you convinced yourself that this is real.
Well, based on the credentialed people that came to me, some of these subjects provided me sensitive foreign intelligence to read, sensitive program documents and photographs to evaluate, and then described in very specific detail how all this worked. And they were telling me the exact, extremely specific details that it all checked out. Yeah.
You know, the thing I have trouble with, it's the fact that my experience as a journalist is it's very hard for governments to keep secrets. Most things leak. Your government leaks like a sieve. Why hasn't this leaked?
Well, I've certainly been the recipient of a lot of U.S. government secrets, and I can tell you they've never seen the light of day. That's for sure. And I guess ostensibly this has leaked like a sieve for decades, but it was a very sophisticated disinformation campaign where they have allowed some of the truth to come out through some of their trade crafts, but they've disenfranchised people, they've stigmatized it, they made it like this total like wacky thing to talk about. So anybody who may come forward with that kind of information has looked like a total tinfoil hat guy, because it's a perfect amalgamation of disinformation to just make it look crazy.
The best reason to believe Dave Grush may be this document. Remember that whistleblower complaint he filed? It would seem it hasn't fallen on deaf ears.
So the Inspector General of the Intelligence Services of the United States has the information you've got?
Yes.
And more importantly, the Inspector General made a determination about the credibility of your complaint.
They found, after interviewing myself and the subjects and other subjects that I'm not even cognizant on who they were, they found my complaint urgent and credible for the intelligence committees.
The word credible is important, you appreciate. So an official investigatory body of the United States government has determined that your allegations are credible.
Correct.
Coming up, if it is true, then what? What are we going to do if the biggest secret on the planet is now out in the open? And what are they going to do?
How will the non-human intelligence react?
Well, the good thing is that there's a lot of things that he's saying. I think there's a lot of things that could be foilable. I think it's gonna take a while to unwrap everything this guy's talking about, and I think UFO believers are going to make every excuse in the book as to why this guy's telling the truth with zero proof. With zero proof, other than he's got a credible resume. He's got a credible resume, and we'll see, right? We'll see. Let's see what evidence comes forward. Let's see who else comes out. Let's see who else they're connected to. Let's see what Stephen Greer has to say tomorrow, because I think it's going to be interesting.
This is one of the gravest constitutional crises for your country ever.
Absolutely.
Give me some hope here.
Yeah.
There are good people.
There are very good people, and I want that message to be crystal clear. Let's not demonize holistically the U.S. government. There's a whole army of people that want change. I am one of tens, if not hundreds, of individuals within the government on these programs that would like a change.
What kind of change does David Grush want? As he's said here tonight, he wants the NHI technology to be shared so the rest of the world can benefit from it.
And I use nuclear weapons or nuclear physics as an example. It's an acknowledged program. We have nuclear weapons. You don't get to know the designs, but nuclear physics holistically is unclassified. Academia studies it. And why would you suppress basic astrophysics, astrobiology, other hard and soft sciences broadly? It's totally nuts.
Grush has left the government. He wasn't part of URO during the most recent congressional hearings when still more UAP were revealed, including this one captured by a drone in the Middle East in 2022.
I hate that this footage is being used for shit like this. Oh my God, man. This is an example that Arrow used of an object that they did not have enough information on. But that when compared to other objects that move in similar fashions where there's corroborating data and other eyewitnesses and other ways to verify what it was, it turns out to be pretty explainable. And because there wasn't those things with this particular one, it has similar characteristics and similar traits, but not enough data to 100% rule it out. And now it's used as some proof of alien life. It's so stupid.
There it goes.
His whistleblower case will take months to conclude. In the meantime, he says he's starting a scientific foundation.
Here we go.
And he's willing to speak to anyone in Washington who has the clearance and the desire to hear the classified information he could not share here.
I make myself available to Secretary Austin, DNI Haynes, who was a recipient of my complaints. I'm happy to further brief elected officials on the specific ecosystem of secrecy down to the fine details.
Whoever they are. How will the non-human intelligence react to the revelation that human beings now know they're here?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the non-human intelligences have been around for a while, at least multiple decades in modern history, and they've allowed ourselves to annihilate ourselves, genocide, war, famine, etc. So at the very least, I think they're kind of neutral on what humans decide to do with their free will.
And as for how we, the human race, will react to his story, here Grush evinces that quintessentially human characteristic, optimism.
I don't have this utopian ideology that this is going to, solve world problems, stop war entirely. But all I want is a moment of pause and to see if the subject unites us as we've obviously become more divided over the last couple of decades.
Because, if anything else, what you're revealing may mean we all start thinking of ourselves not as American, Australian, Russian, Chinese, but as human.
Human family. I think that's totally the right term, yeah.
That was weird.
Okay, so now we are going to attempt to process this all.
That was so weird.
It's totally the right term, yeah.
What the fuck kind of edit is
Okay,
this?
so now we are going to attempt to process this all together. Hey, everybody, I'm Brian Enton. I'm live at the News Nation headquarters in Chicago. Whether you are a UFO believer, a skeptic, or someone somewhere in the middle, which I think is most of us, we know that that conversation with the UFO whistleblower, it was a lot to take in. So for the next hour, we're going to digest it all together. We've got military officials who say that they have seen unidentified aerial phenomena joining us live. They're going to be with us. Also, you're going to hear from lawmakers who are taking whistleblower David Grush's claims seriously. Everything that you just heard, this is now going to result in a congressional hearing.
How much you want to bet it's Tim
Congress
Burchett?
People say there will be a hearing over all of this. And the very credible reporter who broke the story tells us about other sources that she has who she says back up Grush and everything that he said. But we want to start tonight with the journalist who sat with David Grush for hours, Ross Coulthart. He joins us live now. Ross, incredible interview. We checked into David Grush's credentials. We did our own due diligence here at News Nation. All of his credentials stack up, but there's nothing like actually sitting down with someone, looking them in the eye for hours face to face to really get a read on them. Why do you say that David Grush is so believable here?
Look, the most persuasive thing for me is the simple fact that I was introduced to Mr. Grush by people who told me about him from within the legacy UAP crash retrieval program. I wrote a book about this subject a couple of years ago, and because of the contacts that I made in the course of researching that book, I became aware of the existence of the crash retrieval program, and I became aware of the existence of Mr. Grush, who was basically conducting his investigations for the UAP task force. I've known about him for some time, and many people have vouched for his credit.
Hey, Ventide, thanks for the $5 donation. This is just sad. I think he believes the people that told him these stories. Poor dude. Yeah. I mean, look, man, it wouldn't be the first time that somebody who's fallen for these stories, or even taken their personal experiences into these stories, So it doesn't totally surprise me. It does a little bit that, that he hasn't seen these things. He hasn't been in the programs. He hasn't had his hands on any of these materials or bodies, or have spoken to any of the scientists that have actually looked at these things. It's just a trust me bro story. It's a guy of a guy of a guy, trust me bro. And then he's referring the German Bell. We're still talking about Roswell, like it's and Robert Salas, like he's referencing all of the greatest hits in this interview. He's referencing all of the greatest hits. But let's talk to Ross Coulthart, who's freezing somewhere live.
Credibility, and indeed I've heard nothing but good about him.
The number one thing that I've heard, Ross, my friends have been texting me.
And for fuck's sake, I guess it's just, I'll cut the network a break because they're a new network. But what in the fuck is going on? They have the interview playing with volume in the background as they're having an interview between Ross and I forget the guy name already, but Ross's mic is getting hit with wind. What? Dude.
Me for the last hour. First of all, they've been riveted by your interview, but most of my friends have texted me, look, I'm skeptical because I want to see proof. I'm going to remain skeptical until I can actually see some evidence of this.
That's a good idea.
I can assure you and your viewers, Mr. Grush wants you to see the proof that he has seen. The difficulty is that the crazy thing about AARO, which is the current investigative body that is supposedly charged with investigating the phenomenon, is that the Congress has mandated that the public get to know the truth. But the Pentagon has neutered the very body that it's trusted to do these investigations. It doesn't have the Title 50 classified information access that Mr. Grush had. Because of Mr. Grush's extraordinarily high security classification, he was allowed to see, hear, and read things and talk to people who Congress isn't even allowed to talk to, and who members of AARO, the Pentagon's supposed UFO investigation body, aren't allowed to talk to. And so he wants you all to see that evidence. And so that's the reason why he's gone to the Inspector General with his reprisal complaint, who referred him on to the Congress, and he's given evidence detailing all of that information to the extent that he can to those confidential committees in secret hearings, the Senate Intelligence Committee and the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. And it's that information that he now wants brought out, hopefully in an open, transparent public hearing.
It's a good point you make that AARO, the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, they're the ones who are supposed to be investigating the UFOs. He claims they don't even have the information that they need. They don't even really know what's going on. But I've got to ask you...
but that's not true. Because he told Kirkpatrick. He went to Kirkpatrick and told him all the things that he knows. And Kirkpatrick was like, pass. Okay, we'll take a look. We took a look. Pass. We're good.
I mean, you've been studying this stuff for a long time. Do you believe everything that he said? Because I kind of walked away from it thinking, like, some of it I found to be believable. Other parts I felt more skeptical of. Do you think everything he says is truth?
That's a great question.
Look, it's ultimately impossible for you and me to test his claims. What he wants is for his claims to be tested. He wants us to be skeptical. The reason he's come forward is because he's frustrated that what's happening at the moment is the Pentagon, frankly, is engineering a cover-up. It's lying to the American public. I can say that because I'm an Australian. Throw me in jail if you like. But the simple fact is, your Pentagon, your Department of Defense is lying to you. And I know that because I've spoken to people in the program who tell me that what Mr. Grush is telling you is the truth. And the huge...
So he's spoken to people in the program. Ross has spoken to people in the top secret program that reverse engineers alien craft and the dead bodies. They talked to Ross, the Australian journalist, who somehow talks to people in classified departments. So classified that nobody can talk about them. But they can be talked about when the cameras are off behind the scenes with Australian journalists. Why is an Australian journalist the only guy that can get UFO reverse engineers to talk to? Why do they only talk to this guy? Dude, it's wild, man. This is like Linda Moulton Howe shit. This is on the level of Linda Moulton Howe. It's a little more sophisticated. But it's the same, dude, it's the same record. It's the same tune. It's the same chords. It's the same album.
Huge frustration that he and indeed some of his own colleagues who are still in AARO feel is that you, the American public, deserve the truth. Now, the thing that I really respect and admire, I trained as a lawyer as a younger man, and I love and respect the American Constitution. You have transparency and accountability controls in your Congress that are absolutely magnificent. And people like Dave Grush, he's only one of an enormous number of people who've now come forward and indicated their willingness to give evidence to the Congress. They've given evidence in secret to those committees in the Congress. The Congress already has this information. There are members of your so-called Gang of Eight, the people who are entrusted in your Congress with the most sensitive secrets, who I know what Mr. Grush is telling them. And it's incumbent on the American public to demand of your government not the secrets of how this technology works. I can understand why you might want to keep that confidential. I'm told that the technology that is represented by these devices is a dreadful weapon. It could do terrible things. It could destroy the planet. So I can see the need to classify that aspect of it. But I think the fact that there's been an 80 to 90-year cover-up that has concealed, not just from the American public,
you
but
believe
from
everything
the
he
world,
says.
The existence of these craft, the
Just say
existence
yes,
of
Ross.
multiple species of non-human intelligence, and moreover, the most important thing, the technologies.
The longest fucking answer. This is what Ross does, and he's been on this show multiple times. He takes a simple question, and he fucking goes on for 20 minutes. Just say yes. You believe every word David Grush says. Just say it. It's the Grush Rush, baby. Ride the wave. Give me a break.
To people in the legacy program who have told me it's getting nowhere. They're not getting the scientific advancements they want, even though they have this technology in front of them, because they don't have the ability to share this information with other scientists. That's the key issue.
It's just so much. Look, I get that this is what you have done for a long time, and you know the ins and outs. For people on the outside, it's so much for us to take in. I was just thinking about, 20 years ago, you were thought to be kind of crazy if you talked about UFOs. The government said there was no program at all. It wasn't really until 2020 that they opened up and said they did have a secret program all those years looking into things, even released some videos. Earlier this week, Ross, I interviewed Leslie Kean, a very respected journalist, broke some of those stories in the New York Times back in 2020 about that.
She's not a respected journalist. Again, like, these are little things that you should notice, okay? She only reports on UFOs. That's and ghosts and goblins. That's it. She doesn't report on anything else. She's not a respected journalist, especially after this story. Again, they shopped this to other big outlets. Everyone turned them down, except for a little-known media company known as The Debrief, and that was according to Vanity Fair, that is, and very right-wing leaning News Nation. Very pro-military, very, rah-rah, bootlicking, American flag kind of stuff. Not that you shouldn't respect veterans, but this is, for fuck's sake, they had Rob Blagojevich, as a commentator on this show right before this. They had outed mayors for doing really shady shit. Reporting, whatever, dude. It's a shitty news station, and it's produced pretty piss poorly so far. I'll cut them some slack on that. I'm sure they'll get better at it because the money behind this station is big. It's the same money that produced The Hill and a couple of other progressive outlets that are really just diet right-wing ideals. So anyway, here we go.
About that secret government program also broke this story involving the whistleblower David Grush. She says, much like you, that she has other sources too, sources who don't even know David Grush, who back up what he says. I want you to listen to what she said, and we'll talk about it afterwards.
I believe it because of all the sources I have who have told me the same thing. So who am I to doubt these very, very high-level people who have been inside these programs for decades, have done their work, and are all telling me the same thing? I don't think there's some kind of conspiracy among all these people who don't know each other to make something like this up.
And something else I think is significant is that David Grush, the whistleblower's attorney who represented him through this process, is the former Inspector General to the intelligence community. So would he really take on a case like this with his reputation if he didn't believe it to be true? I think that's an important side to all of this. But in terms of what Leslie said, Ross, do you also have sources totally separate from Grush who back up what he said?
Absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, I was first introduced to the existence of the crash retrieval program by a great American called Nat Kovitz, who was the former head of research and development, the chief geek, if you like, for the US Navy. And Nat, God bless him, was dying from cancer, but he made a decision very close towards his end to tell me the truth. And I put part of that into my book, but I didn't reveal the full extent of what I was told. I was introduced by Nat to people who led me to other people who were working in the legacy program. And that's why I'm so sure that this is real. And it's why I'm so disappointed that the oversight controls in your Congress don't appear to have worked, because incredibly, the scientists say they don't think that the Congress, even the presidents, have always been told the truth about this. That's the thing that concerns them, that there's been this secret program going on, funded by you, the US taxpayer, at enormous expense. And yet the whole thing has been kept secret from most people in the Congress, particularly from the oversight committees that actually have the right and the responsibility to know about programs like this.
Yeah,
and I know for
he just keeps going. But Steve Long, it makes a good point. The IG case had nothing to do with Grush's UFO claims. So many misrepresentations of the facts. And he's 100% right. Like, the IG case had nothing to do with this. Nothing. Nothing.
For a fact, presidents have been denied. Presidents have been denied briefings on this stuff. And I guess as somebody who's legally trained, I just think that's appalling. It represents a breakdown in the accountability controls in your government. People have exceeded their authority. And I'll tell you one thing that really shocked me. One person in the program told me that they refer to the President of the United States is not briefed in most cases, into the program because he is, quote, a temporary employee. The arrogance of these people is palpable. That's what shocks me. There are a cadre of people who have taken it upon themselves to keep a secret for no good reason. The public have a right to know that people are engaging with a non-human intelligence on this planet.
Let me ask you this, Ross. When sorry to interrupt you, but when David Grush talked about quite a number, that was his quote, quite a number of these non-human craft that exist out there that are in storage. Were you able to nail him down on that anymore? I mean, is it a couple? Are there dozens? Do we know what he meant?
Look, I have a very good idea of how many there are, but David, in the interview with me, explained that he doesn't want the public to know yet because he doesn't want our adversaries to know. He doesn't want the Russians or the Chinese to know too much about how advanced the Americans are in terms of what they've been able to recover. And that's because I know from my own sources, the Russians particularly, but probably also the Chinese, have also recovered non-human technology. What's been going on, Brian, is a secret Cold War, a battle between the great powers to gain control of this technology and to master it. And the terrible thing is, if you think about the fact that your president controls a technology that can literally destroy the planet, nuclear weapons.
What a great night.
And we've known that these UAPs are interfering with these nuclear sites. There's a great book about this by a friend of mine, Robert Hastings. But the thing that really does worry me is that there's a real risk. If the public don't know this, if military commanders don't know this, there's a real risk of an escalation where a UAP is confused for an enemy attack, and we end up with a situation where nuclear missiles are launched by mistake.
Yeah, listen, I hear what you're saying, but when you talk about a Cold War and secret non-human craft in multiple countries, again, it's hard to wrap your mind around.
It's ridiculous.
To think that something like that could really remain a secret all of this time with social media and camera phones and everyone pretty much knowing everything these days. Ross, stay there. We're going to keep you part of the conversation. I want to bring in two people who say they've actually seen UAP, essentially
Just
UFOs
please stop
firsthand.
for 1 second, Ross.
We've all seen it in the video too. The Pentagon shared it publicly. Sean Cahill is a former Navy chief who saw the so-called Tic Tac in 2004, and Alex Dietrich is a retired Navy lieutenant commander
the
who also saw the Tic Tac. That
nowhere.
video is unbelievable. It's really an honor to have both of you with us tonight. First of all, I want to ask you, Alex, first, what did you make of David Grush's story? I know you've seen the interview. Do you find it believable?
There's a lot to unpack there. I'm not familiar with the sources that he's referring to. I'm certainly not familiar with the hard evidence, the data, or any physical evidence that he referred to there.
Why is she even here?
But what I do know is that I saw something strange in 2004, November 14, 2004. It's been referred to as the Nimitz encounter or the Tic Tac incident. And when we reported it at the time, and in years since, even today, it's my understanding that air crew operators, folks who see something don't have a good protocol. They don't have a good process to report it. So you ride the subway and you see a billboard that says, if you see something, say something. There's an easy way to report a suspicious package. But if you're seeing something in the sky that doesn't make sense, looks out of place, especially around a military exercise or near a civilian city center, especially with the events of 9/11 still so fresh in our hearts and our minds, we need to have a protocol in place. We need to have folks who are dedicated and a system to report these and analyze these unidentified phenomenon.
Yeah, and that seems to be the bigger issue here, regardless of whether you're a skeptic or a believer. The problem here seems to be that we don't have a system, a good, real, honest system where people can come forward who are in the military and actually report things and not to be made to look crazy and that kind of thing. Sean, I have to ask you, when you first saw the Tic Tac, along with a number of other people...
Sean didn't see the Tic Tac. Straight up. Impossible for him to see it. Even with the biggest binoculars in the world. You're not going to see 2 jet planes circling a Tic Tac. God knows what, 200, 300, 400 miles away. I don't know. How far away were they? 100 miles, 60 miles, 10 miles, 20 miles. You're not going to see that, Sean Cahill. You're not going to see that.
In the area and who were on the ship. I mean, did people take you seriously? Did you feel like you were being made fun of, or did you feel like the military was open to hearing what you guys actually saw?
During the week of that exercise, we took it very seriously. There was no real ridicule on board until after the fact, when we were all trying to figure out what had happened. That was when we were making jokes and making light of the situation. But during the situation, we took it very seriously because there was an unknown aircraft in the vicinity of our battle group. I have to say that I cannot say with assurance that what I saw was the same thing that Commander Fravor or Commander Dietrich saw. I saw 5 to 7 lights in the sky move in a pattern that I'd never seen before throughout that point decade of my career, and now just 20 years worth. It seems commensurate with UAP. But I can say that this is something I followed for the last 5 years since the 2017 article came out, and I've worked diligently at it, usually 24.
Nobody knows anything about you, Sean Cahill. After all of your interviews, after all of the Sky Forts, nobody has listened to any of your philosophy to nowhere. This reporter barely knows who you are. And the surface level stuff is that you saw the Tic Tac because you were part of the Nimitz thing. Turns out you saw 5 lights. Turns out you filmed UFOs at Lou Elizondo's house that turned out to be totally, like a plane? I mean, Commander Alex Dietrich, she saw the object for 10 seconds, according to her. David Fravor said he saw it for 15 minutes. It's a huge time discrepancy. Huge. I love that Ross Coulthart is freezing his ass off for this interview.
24/7, as we say. This is a very present phenomenon now. It is not just that strange thing that I saw in the sky one time.
I think the difference here, though, Ross, is when Sean and Alex talk about what they saw, we've got the video to back it up. And we've now got accounts from a number of people in the military who saw the very same thing. So it's easy to accept that. It's hard to go from seeing this video and saying, okay, this is not explainable and clearly is something strange going on, to we have these crafts in our possession, we have bodies, there is a secret Cold War. I just think it's hard to make that leap for Americans when there's no hard evidence, when we can't see video or pictures.
I completely agree with you, and I think that's why Mr. Grush is saying that people need to get Congress to hold the hearings where this evidence can be brought to light. He's not expecting people to believe him straight off, frankly. He's hoping that people will be skeptical.
But what he's hoping, and what I think a lot of people are hoping, is that Congress will suddenly find the courage to start demanding answers, because I know evidence has been presented.
No, it was a little more than a year ago, but yeah, I did at one point,
and
Greg.
I know that there's been meetings in the Congress attended by senators where information has been discussed relating to the crash retrieval program. And I also, by the way, have information that suggests the National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan, attended at least one of these meetings. So I think the president probably, or at least his most senior advisor, does know. And we're in a situation now where it's incumbent on the Congress and the president to be open about the fact that it doesn't appear to be forthcoming with that evidence. So what needs to happen, I think, is for there to be a public push, and I think also engagement by the media. There's been a terrible failure of the media here, where they've accepted the disinformation line that's been put by the different intelligence services that have tried to shut this issue down. And there's been a lamentable failure of investigative media. I mean, when I started doing my book, I expected to disprove the phenomenon. I thought I was going to find a black project, some kind of secret project, and working with high-tech aerospace. And it turned out it wasn't American technology or Russian or Chinese. It was something else. And the simple fact is, media could have done those same inquiries and reached the same conclusion.
Yeah, well, I have to say, and I think this is a proud moment for News Nation, too, because you don't see this kind of reporting, I don't think, on the mainstream media. You've got the sort of spooky sci-fi shows with the crazy graphics that do the UFO stories, but you don't see real hard journalism questioning the situation, but being fair throughout. So I think this is really like a moment for News Nation that we're standing out, because you just don't see other mainstream media taking this on. Sean Cahill, Alex Dietrich, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it. Ross, stick around, because we're going to keep you where you are.
Stay there.
The Pentagon says they can't verify Grush's claims.
We want to see your nipples through that jacket.
Hiding non-human vehicles, but Congress says it will investigate, and we are going to hear from the lawmaker who plans to lead that effort. That's coming up.
Here we go.
Right after.
Here we go. I wonder, Tim Burchett? You gonna be Tim Burchett? I wonder, the guy who says women don't have rights over their bodies? That guy? The guy who's talking about Ezekiel's will in the Bible every chance he gets? Bitches about budget overspends but loves feeding the war machine? That guy? Here we go. Let's see what Congressman Tim Burchett is. I know it's going to be Tim Burchett.
All right, welcome back to this News Nation Live special, where we are processing together what we heard from the UFO whistleblower David Grush, who claims the U.S. government has a secret crash retrieval program and even has non-human crafts in its possession. I want to talk to my colleague, Joe Khalil, now in Washington. He has literally been chasing down lawmakers all week for reaction. Joe, tell me, what's your feeling? Because I've seen you walk in the halls of Congress every day, literally chasing some of these guys down. Do you get the feeling that they're taking what David Grush is saying seriously?
I do, Brian. I mean, there's certainly curiosity. And look, the claims that he has made are very serious, right? The Pentagon right away came out and sort of denied it, saying that there is no verifiable information to back up his claims. But when I was talking to lawmakers this week on Capitol Hill, and we've talked to dozens of them, the sense that I got is there is a serious curiosity about this. A lot of them were fascinated. Many of them say that they want to learn more, and certainly they believe this is a topic worth investigating. The allegations about a secret government program to recover UFO crash debris hidden from the public and from Congress has prompted lawmakers into action this week.
We plan on having a hearing pertaining to that whole issue.
The chairman of the powerful House Oversight Committee, Jim Comer, confirming first to News Nation that his committee will investigate whistleblower David Grush's claims. Mr. Grush alleging the government possesses multiple craft of non-human origin.
We've got something in our airspace that our military does not control.
Congressman Tim Burchett will lead the planned hearing. He points out the U.S. military pilots have been reporting UAP
Ring the bell.
encounters
We'll cover
for
that one
years.
too.
And the congressman alleges military intelligence has not been forthcoming with Congress about those interactions.
Define our laws of physics.
And while there's wide agreement in Congress that Grush's claims are worthy of looking into, many are skeptical, like former astronaut and Navy captain Senator Mark Kelly.
Can we watch that part again?
And the congressman alleges military intelligence has not been forthcoming with Congress about those interactions.
Define our laws of physics.
And while there's wide agreement...
Define our laws of physics. This motherfucker doesn't know the first thing about physics. He doesn't know the first thing about physics. Jesus Christ. Holy shit, man. That was the funniest clip I've ever seen on a serious news program. Holy God, that was funny.
Agreement in Congress that Grush's claims are worthy of intelligence has not been forthcoming with Congress about those interactions.
Define our laws of physics.
And while there's wide agreement in Congress that Grush's claims are worthy of looking into, many are skeptical, like former astronaut and Navy captain Senator Mark Kelly. He tells News Nation
he was saying such crazy shit that the only thing that they could edit into that piece, other than the other stuff he said, what defies the laws of physics. Dude, that is funny.
He has trouble accepting that the military would mislead Congress in the way that Grush alleges.
I haven't seen any reasons to believe that they're not forthcoming.
And Brian, we included Senator Kelly in there because I did want to get that aspect of it. Certainly there are lawmakers who are skeptical, but many more. The large reaction that I got was that people want to learn more. And one of the reactions we got was from Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna, who she's going to be one of two lawmakers, along with Tim Burchett, who you heard in that piece, who's going to be leading these hearings. And she sent us a statement, I'll sort of sum it up, where she basically says, for years, Americans have been curious about UAPs, but for the most part, the default government position has been to leave the public in the dark. So she says she's certainly looking forward to having these hearings and shining some serious light on a lot of these questions, Brian.
And it does appear to be a bipartisan effort at this point, Joe. With the lawmakers who you have spoken to, have you gotten a sense whether any of them have had any sort of classified briefings or may know more about David Grush and his claims than what they're actually letting on?
You know, it's my sense that many lawmakers are just as much in the dark as the general public is, you know, with the exception maybe of a small handful, just from the reactions I was getting. Again, a lot of them really fascinated by Grush's comments and by his claims. And the fact that they had that posture led me to believe that many of them just want to know what the rest of the public wants to know about this. So it was truly a sense that I think they are curious, and that's why they're pursuing these hearings, which again, we know are going to happen eventually.
I want to bring Ross Coulthart back in. He, of course, is the journalist who did the interview with David Grush. Ross, you've been working on these sort of stories for a long time. 2020 was a big moment when the U.S. government came clean with the program, released those videos, released that Tic Tac video, which we were just talking about, which was a big deal at the time. Do you feel, Ross, like this is a moment we're in now? Do you think this is going to make it onto the timeline, that we are going to learn more, that more whistleblowers will come forward?
I'm talking to other people who are weighing up whether they will come forward. And a lot of whether they come forward depends on how Mr. Grush is treated. They're very nervous. I mean, there are people who have devoted much of their lives to working on the technologies that we're talking about, and they're deeply frustrated that the American public don't know about it, and that a great scientific endeavour could be undertaken to actually make breakthroughs in these technologies. And so I think the thing I really admire is all of these people are patriots. They're not telling me things that should be kept classified. They're not telling me how to develop these technologies. They're not telling me how to develop weapons. What they're keen to see is almost like a Manhattan Project style development where America does what it's so good at doing, the exceptionalism of the Apollo moon mission, the achievement of building the nuclear bomb during the Second World War. That's what's needed here. There are technologies, propulsion technologies and energy technologies.
What did I just
if
say
Mr.
earlier?
Grush is telling the truth, and I think
What
he
did I
is,
just say earlier?
that could be developed for not just America's advantage, but also for the world's. And there's a strong patriotic sense here that it's time that this issue was brought out of the darkness. And I do know, I've spoken to people in Congress, senators and representatives, who've privately admitted to me that they do know the truth of what Mr. Grush is talking about. But there's a fear, there's a genuine fear of doing the wrong thing, because we are at a very dangerous time in human history right now. You know, we're teetering on the edge of confrontations with Russia and China. And frankly, if anybody's going to win, I want it to be the good guys. I want it to be our American ally. And Australia, my country, is part of that Five Eyes alliance that has done so many good things to help protect the world and keep security. And I guess the people that are weighing coming forward, they feel very strongly that that security, if anything, is imperiled by the continuing secrecy that we're seeing here. They're fearful that unless this is brought out into the open, it's just going to stay hidden forever. And they're saying to me the reason why they think it's being kept secret is because the gatekeepers to this information are terrified of getting into trouble, because they have committed crimes. They've committed terrible crimes.
No, yeah, I mean, and it seemed like that's what David Grush's motivation was too in all of this. I want to read part of the Pentagon statement because I think it's important. Obviously, when we first started reporting on this at the beginning of the week, the Pentagon did release a statement that said, in part, to date, AARO, which is the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, has not discovered any verifiable information to substantiate claims that any programs regarding the possession or reverse engineering of extraterrestrial materials have existed in the past or exist currently. Joe, you deal with these government groups all the time. What did you make of that statement? I mean, the first thing I thought of was they didn't actually come out and say, no, this isn't true. They just said no verifiable information, Joe.
That was my first reaction too, Brian, and I don't want to speculate too much about it, but I thought that word verifiable information
you didn't say your name, Rossi.
may be doing a lot of work there. So that was my reaction, and as I was taking it to members of Congress, certainly I was also asking about the Pentagon response specifically. And, you know, I mean, as we're hearing, right, from a number of people here, there certainly may be some people in the higher echelons, people who have certain security clearances that have some of this information that may just be nervous about releasing it for whatever reason. I can tell you that there is a sense, you know, just to build on what Ross has said, there is a sense among a lot of members of Congress that they feel like the public does deserve to know more, that if this information is available and is out there, that it should be shared publicly, and that for years and years and years, the sort of posture that we're getting from the Pentagon and from other organizations is that the first reaction is just to keep those things quiet for whatever reason. Obviously, there are legitimate reasons to keep certain bits of information classified, and certainly there are worries about what our adversaries have and what they know and what they are capable of. So you can sort of understand some of the reasons for the classification. But what I heard over and over and over again is that if what these basic claims that Grush is making now, if they are true, then certainly that is worth investigating and worth at least shining some light because that, they think, should be public knowledge.
And Ross, just real quick, because we've got to squeeze a break in here, but I guess if you believe Grush and everything he has said, then the Pentagon statement actually makes sense because he is claiming that AARO, the group that's supposed to be investigating these things, does not even know about the secret program. So the statement actually lines up with what he's claiming.
Exactly. AARO does not have Title 50 access, which would give it access to...
But Ross Coulthart knows. Ross Coulthart knows. He's spoken to them. He's spoken to the people inside the programs. Trust me, bro. It's real. It's real. Okay? Show of hands. Show of hands. Where was it? Who believes Grush? Can we get a show of hands? I totally believe Grush, according to Eagle Eye View Images. How about proof so we don't have to believe or not believe or argue about belief anymore. What about some goddamn proof? That'd be nice, wouldn't it? Why don't we elevate our standard of evidence? Why don't we elevate what impresses us? Why don't we demand more out of Grush? If he felt it was so important and that it was a secret that humanity needed to have, why didn't he do what Edward Snowden did? Why didn't he bring out a gig of information and put his life on the line? If he thought it was so important, if he really thinks this is a crime against humanity and he's the Boy Scout that he is professing he is, why not do it? If Arrow's not listening to you, if your superiors are not listening to you, and you decided to retire from the military so you can publicly and privately advocate for this on the Hill and through your foundation, nobody acknowledged your access, your military record. Everyone has ignored you. Then why didn't you take the information that you're talking about and disclose it? If it's something that you really believed, you'd be probably in a ton of shit. But I just don't think it's there. And you haven't seen it. You've already admitted that you haven't seen it. And Leslie Kean and Ralph Blumenthal have already written that he has not seen any of these things. He has not been at any of these facilities. You need belief for this to work. I want proof. And I want people out there to raise their standard. This should piss you off. This shouldn't make you happy. This is not a touchdown for you, man. There's no other news network reporting on it like this because there's no evidence. Not because it's not interesting. Not because it's clearly going to demand time of Congress. Now we got congressional leaders that are going to waste who knows how many hours on a subject that Tim Burchett wouldn't even go and talk about AR-15s. After what happened in his state, he wouldn't have he didn't do a congressional meeting for that. There was no urgency when that happened, but there's an urgency when a UFO whistleblower connected to clearly Lou Elizondo, Christopher Mellon, Gary Nolan, all of the people within the UAPTF that were running it while it was ATIP and while it was OSAP. He knows all of those guys. And when he took all of that information that he double checked and triple checked and made sure he wasn't being fooled on to Arrow, to a scientist, a real scientist, it wasn't good enough. And it has nothing to do with the IG investigation. Like, there's so many things about this, man. So many things. Don't rely on belief. Rely on proof.
To look at special access programs and covert actions. And because of that, it can't do its job.
Okay, thank you so much, Joe. Ross, don't go anywhere because we've still got a lot of questions for you. We do know that Grush is the man who he says he is, that he has the top secret clearance, but there are some holes in his revelation. Next, I will add some new voices to this conversation, tackle the question, why would Mr. Grush make all of this up? He could actually go to jail. He's testified under oath about it. We're going to discuss that question coming up after the break.
Coming up after the break. All right, let's see. Let's see what we got. No new videos. I see a couple of people in the chat were saying, "Man, I'm embarrassed that I was genuinely excited about this, and I'm embarrassed that I shared it with my family and friends." Welcome to the party. Welcome to the party. I don't think this is going to impress anyone. But, yeah.
The word credible is important. Yes. You appreciate. Mm-hmm. So an official investigatory body of the United States government has determined that your allegations are credible.
Correct.
Welcome back. I'm Brian Enton. We are live reacting to News Nation's exclusive one-on-one interview with UFO Pentagon whistleblower David Grush, alleging a secret government program to retrieve alien vehicles. Ross Coulthart is back with me. He did the interview for News Nation, and I want to bring in some more voices also to add to this conversation. We want to get all sides in. Mick West is a key voice in these discussions. He does not believe Dave's story. He doesn't think that it adds up. I also have with me Michael Schellenberger, who believes that this has been a long time coming, and Michael does believe David Grush's story. But Mick, I want to start with you. You've seen the interview. Are you essentially calling David Grush a liar?
No, I think he seems to actually believe what he's saying. But the clip you just played there, that the complaint and the IG adding credibility to his story, isn't actually true. His lawyer, who just basically parted ways with him a couple of days ago, issued a statement, which is quite unusual, saying that they had been misrepresented and that the whistleblower complaint was actually very narrowly scoped and did not speak to the specifics of the alleged classified information that Mr. Grush is now publicly characterizing. Look at Ross's face. So the idea that it adds credibility to the actual claims he is making isn't true. It's simply credible that he's making some allegation that there was something that was covered up, not what that thing actually was.
Let me bring Ross in because there is some, there's an interesting development. I read the statement too, Ross. I didn't quite read it like that. I took the statement from his lawyer and the former inspector general to be, look, we did what we were out to do here to get him this far, and we've finished. I mean, what's going on with the lawyer?
Okay, let me just make it very clear here. Mick's unfortunately misconceived what the lawyers were actually talking about. Great respect. The simple fact is the representations that were made by the Inspector General, not by the lawyers, are the ones that are relevant. And the Inspector General of Intelligence Security, and I've confirmed this with Mr. Grush, the Inspector General of Intelligence and Security took evidence under oath not only from Mr. Grush, but also from people inside the legacy UAP program. Witnesses have given evidence in support of David Grush's allegations to the Inspector General, and it wasn't just about the reprisal allegations. Unfortunately, you're going to hear in coming days, I can't talk about it at this stage, but you're going to hear in coming days that Chuck McCullough is still acting for David Grush. He hasn't dissociated himself from his client at all. And in fact, you will see something I'm not allowed to explain, but basically it'll come out in due course that Mr. McCullough is still acting for his client.
Okay, we'll keep an eye on that because that'll be an issue. I just want to get Mick back in. We'll be looking for that because there's been some uncertainty with the lawyer situation. But Mick, I just want to ask you because you're a skeptic. The thing that I keep going back to is David Grush has these incredible credentials. High-level intelligence officer, spent years keeping these secrets, has now gone under oath, essentially, and could go to jail for lying about some of this stuff. I mean, what would his reason for lying be?
I don't necessarily think that he's lying. All the stuff that he says has been cleared by DOPSA, the Defense Office of Pre-Publication and Security Review. That doesn't mean that it's actually true. It doesn't mean that he's lying, but it also doesn't mean that it's accurate. The things that have been cleared for release are
I don't get it. I'm sorry. I don't understand. Yeah. What do you mean if you don't believe his story, but then wouldn't he be lying? Explain to me what you mean.
No, he will be mistaken. If someone has told him stuff and he believes that what they have told him, he is not lying. He's just mistaken. And the claims that he's made are quite extraordinary, and they're things that would be secret. The idea that we have aliens are killing Americans, the thing that we've discovered these craft, and the actual details of the analysis that we've performed on this isotopic analysis and things like that. If that was actually an adversary craft, we wouldn't want them to know what type of analysis we performed on them. So he's revealing things that would be secret. They've been cleared by the Department of Defense, which means they're not actually secret, which probably means that they're not actually true.
Interesting. Okay, I follow what you're saying now. Michael, I want to bring you in. You've said publicly just this week
Mick.
that you have
fucking resting
Mick
face.
Who
he just
also
fucking killed
back up what Grush has said. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, that's right. And I just want to clarify that I have not said that I believe David Grush. What I've said is that I've spoken to multiple other people with high levels of security clearance who confirm the basic claim that Grush is making, which is that the U.S. government is in possession of over 12 non-human craft. I'm actually not making statements about my own beliefs. I'm reporting what I was told by people with a lot of credibility that are in a position to know and that are very sane and so respected that they have achieved high levels of security clearance.
Let me ask you, Michael, because like the #1 tweet that I've gotten with people reaching out to me and commenting and sending me DMs is, Brian, you've fallen for this. This is all a distraction. The government is trying to distract us from something by putting this out there. What do people mean by that, Michael? I mean, have you heard this too?
Oh, sure. And we should be concerned that the U.S. government is engaged in a disinformation campaign. It's engaged in disinformation campaigns since the late 1940s. That's not a conspiracy theory. It's very well documented. We've seen, in fact, the U.S. government has admitted to it. There's a 1978 New York Times Magazine article about U.S. government cover-up. We know from the 2017 New York Times revelations around, including the videos, that the Pentagon had been studying this for decades and covered it up. So, I mean, just to cut to the chase, I think the issue here is that if you're really sure that there's no non-human craft in the possession of the U.S. government, then nobody should have any problem with going to look for them. So really what's the question here is Congress going to finally do what it should have done many decades ago, and that's to stand up to very powerful people in the military and intelligence communities to demand that we should be able to go and search those places where the allegations are being made that there are these non-human craft. I mean, that's the bottom line. Congress needs to find its courage. I would note that, you know, this is coming at a time where we've seen an abuse of power in multiple agencies. I've been reporting on whistleblowers from the FBI. I have more whistleblower stories coming. And we're seeing these agencies that are supposed to be under the control of, as well as the direct supervision of Congress, evading congressional oversight. That's why David Grush and so many other people have had to go to become whistleblowers to go directly to Congress because the Aero DOD agency that studies this issue had not been passing that information on to Congress.
Yeah, and I see Mick also nodding his head. It does seem like regardless of what side of this issue you're on, whether you believe it or not, there does seem to be agreement that Congress should investigate and that the American people should know the truth about what is actually known. Mick West, Michael Schellenberger, thank you so much both for being here with us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
It's good to be with you.
Still coming up just ahead, a Las Vegas family called the police claiming to see an 8-foot-tall creature after a crash in their backyard. The craziest part of this to me is that a police officer also saw something too. This just happened this week. Very weird timing. It came out this week as we do this story on the whistleblower coming forward. Something crashed. What was it? Is the government involved like Dave Grush claims?
This fucking kid. I mean, we didn't even cover it because it was so stupid. If you believe that kid, you're an idiot. I mean, he was literally, his whole story, he was reading it from his phone because he couldn't remember what happened. He wanted to make sure he got it all. Not even James Fox believes him. Detective James Fox was on the case.
There's like an 8-foot person beside it, and another one beside it, and it has big eyes and looking at us, and it's still there.
Okay, where is this on your property?
In my backyard. I swear to God, this is not a joke. This is actually, we're terrified of it.
So there's 2 people or 2 subjects that are in your backyard?
Correct, and they're very large. They're like 8 foot. 9 feet, 10 foot, I don't know. They look like aliens to us. Big eyes. They have big eyes, like I can't explain it. And big mouth. They're shiny eyes, and they're not human. They're 100% they're not human.
Okay, a potential UFO investigation was sparked from this emergency 911 call in Las Vegas on April 30th. A family claimed something crashed in their backyard. The video coming out just this week, they claim they saw non-human.
This is everything?
It's the way it was described.
Are we done with this story?
Walking around, and whatever it was,
the Grush Rush over?
Right at them, they say. The officers who went to the home also reported seeing a flash in the sky.
I'm not wasting my time with this fucking story.
To me, that's what I like. He didn't even sound excited, and he was basically saying he saw an alien. What do you make of it?
Elsewhere in the call, though, he truly sounds scared and anxious. And also the police body cam, you hear the bewilderment and a little bit of fear in the voices of the officers. So it's hard to know what to believe, but we should tell you that there was a follow-up a few days later with the police going to the home of that family, and the family reported seeing government-looking vehicles in the neighborhood. They also reported seeing men in suits and dark glasses. So we don't know if that's popular culture weaving into a hoax, or if there really is this covert retrieval program that Dave Grush alleges exists in our government.
Yeah, certainly sounds like a scene from a movie when you talk about the sunglasses.
Dude, this is the Jason Pemberfoot. Lou cheering for Mick West makes me realize Lou is probably talking to the same peeps who talk to Mick West. I feel they're playing a needed role in the disclosure process as hard skeptics then turn. Nobody's talking to Mick West. Mick West has written books on debunking big claims with no proof. Mick West did the trigonometry years ago on Go Fast and determined it was going 40 miles an hour. And then NASA told you a couple of weeks ago that indeed the Go Fast is moving 40 miles per hour. Like, it's all of these videos that they've played tonight are all mostly debunked or explainable things. There's not been one new video. There's not been one new revelation. And now we're talking about some hoaxing kid in Vegas that clearly hoaxed a UFO landing in his backyard. And they're taking this seriously.
Sunglasses and the suits, but there was video. I mean, there was body camera video, and then they released clearer video, the police did, and there was clearly something in the sky. We know you'll stay on it, Nancy. Thanks for being with us tonight. Okay, there's more to come, though. Grush's account has racked up millions of views. It's a topic in government and media worldwide right now, but what's next? Where does all of this lead? Are there more government whistleblowers ready to come out of the shadows, back up his story, or should we just toss all of this aside as fiction and move on? We've got some final thoughts from Ross, who did that interview with David Grush. That's coming up after the break.
Unreal. Literally unreal.
Welcome back. I'm Brian Enton here with journalist Ross Coulthart.
Let's do it.
Before we go, we want to have a few final thoughts with Ross. You know, we watched your incredible special, just eye-opening. We've talked about it for the last hour now, Ross. I'm left wondering, you know, if there's really nothing to hide here, what is the harm in investigating? Why doesn't the government just do an investigation, prove everybody wrong? If they want to prove everybody wrong, why not just prove everybody wrong?
Great question, Brian. I mean, the simple fact is Dave Grush has called their bluff. It's time to put up or shut up. If they think he's lying, send him to jail. Prove it. He says he's telling the truth, and he wants you, the American public, to know all about what he knows about. And I think it's incumbent now on Congress to do its job, and also the media. It's got to start asking questions. It's time to start poking a stick at this huge secret, because after all, it is the biggest story in human history. Are we alone? It's quite extraordinary that we probably are not.
It's hard to wrap your mind around, but if even presidents don't know, if even the highest levels of our government don't know, how do we break through?
Well, it's a good question. I mean, I actually detect, I'm an eternal optimist, Brian, and I do detect a willingness. There are really good people in your defence and intelligence services, people who've helped a journalist like me. Frankly, they want this out. They laugh at the idea that there's any justification for the continued secrecy. They think you've got a right to know. It's time the secrets were released and told. And more importantly, it's time for Congress, men and women, Republicans, Democrats, bipartisan, to take this issue up and run with it. They're too frightened of the whole military and intelligence community because an enormous amount of their voter support comes from that lobby. But it's time to stand up and ask questions. That's all Mr. Grush is asking.
Well,
ask questions, investigate.
Maybe this is the moment, Ross. We'll see. You know, we've already got the House Oversight Committee saying that they're going to have a hearing, so we'll see where it goes. Incredible work, Ross. It was just an eye-opening interview. Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. Really glad that we were able to have this open, honest conversation. It's what sets News Nation apart, covering a topic like UFOs in a fair, objective way, being respectful to believers, being respectful to skeptics, regardless of what side you're on. I think we showed you tonight it is definitely a conversation worth having and a topic we will continue to cover. Have a good night. We'll see you on Morning in America.
Well, there we go. The Grush Rush is officially out. Let's see what happens. Now we have to wait and see this, you know, apparently in a month or a couple days, there's going to be revelations with the attorney. Oh my gosh, 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 everyone. We'll see. You know, again, speaking from a guy who's had Lou Elizondo on this show 7 times. I've had Ross Coulthart on at least 4, maybe 5 times. I've had Robert Salas on. I've talked to all of these guys. I've spoken to these guys privately. I know how they operate. I know the things that they say and how they want to sell things. It's the same song. I keep saying this over and over. It's the same thing always, over and over and over and over again. Except this time you got no new videos. You didn't really get any new information. All you got was a bunch of trust me, bro. Trust me, bro. It's happening. It's real. It's real. Man. Well, it looks like the stream got a little choppy there, so I hope we're cool. But it just seems like this is going to keep the UFO community, you know, this is like, holy shit. Like, this is the Wilson Davis documents on steroids. They're going to be talking about this for decades. This is the interview that they've wanted now for ever. They've wanted somebody to say the big buzzwords: alien bodies, alien craft, it's real, the government's hiding it, and we're the only ones who know about it other than China and Russia. There's a secret Cold War. All of these really just buzzwords, crazy ideas with zero proof. Zero. If you're new to the show, welcome. You know, yes, we love Mick West around here. I think he's one of the best voices on all of these crazy claims and these videos. You know, I give hats off to News Nation for at least doing an hour and a half on this. It feels like a genuine effort. It feels like they tried to be somewhat objective. I think taking that I don't even know who that third guy was when Mick West and Ross were on stage there. I felt like that would have been an interesting debate, just having them go at it for 15, 20 minutes back and forth. That's what we need. We need the conversation to expand, and News Nation is the kind of platform that can get Mick West and Ross Coulthart in the same room. Let them debate, like that meme from Godzilla. Let them fight. Let them fight, because this is I wanted to see more of Mick West tearing that down. I wanted to see more of that. I wanted them to go back and forth more. If I was News Nation, I would seriously consider hiring a team of people from both sides of the fence to help produce this show in a better way. There are things you could do that would have made that hour and a half a lot more productive. We did not need to talk about the Vegas alien thing. I think we could have pressed way harder on the new evidence that we got. What new evidence did we get? There was not one shred of new evidence. None. Zero. I think it's a step in the right direction if you want to have a news station with genuine production value cover this. I just don't think they're going to commit to it the way that it should be committed to. If they genuinely want to get to the bottom of this and get some, like you're talking about hundreds of millions of views, and you can do it the right way where let them fight, let them debate. You have the platform, you clearly have the pull. You could pull a Mick West to come in there every single time and really have these guys put the proof on the table and see what a Mick West has to say when those claims are made. There's no proof of physics defying stuff. We have yet to see any of these objects do one of the 5 observables. And don't throw out Agua Dia out there, because that has been ruled out as an optical illusion caused by the camera. So, it's fallen apart for believers. But I don't think they're going to see that. I think they see this as a huge win. Huge win. They are patting themselves on the back. They're doing the UFO circle jerk. Like it's their standard for evidence is so low. It's so low. You guys will take anything. Metal ball scrapings. You guys will take big claims with no proof. You guys will take 70, 80 years of Roswell and the Maelstrom incident, and over and over with the same old stuff that has been lost to history. And at this point, it's so muddied and so long ago that you're never going to be able to get to the actual bottom of any of those things. And it's just, Steve Long makes a good point. People very rarely get charged for lying to Congress. It's rare. It is very rare. And again, you're gonna have a real hard time proving he's lying, because I don't think, again, like, if those things exist, they're not going to be accessible to a team of attorneys. And I think the response to those team of attorneys is those programs don't exist, not because they're trying to cover it up, but because they don't exist. And if they do exist, they're very much human tech and the top of the line, most top secret black project that you could possibly imagine, that if seen by the layman or maybe even a classified high intel person like a Dave Grush could see black tech and mistake it for alien tech. That's very possible. So, oh man, we got to get you on the show, Steve Long. Me, you, and Matthew Riot. Let's just have a round table and shoot the shit. I'm gonna hit up Matthew this. I got the next 3 days off, so we'll make it happen, Captain. Damn. Well, again, if you're new to the show, you want a more credible, skeptical eye on the UFO information that's coming out so fast that it's sometimes very hard to fact check, stay tuned, ring the bell, hit the like button, subscribe. I truly appreciate it. Tomorrow morning, we're going to be covering the Stephen Greer press conference at the National Press Club, the Disclosure Event 2.0. So we'll be here tomorrow at 11 a.m. So, we'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a wonderful night. And is there anything else? Anything else we need to do? Turd Phase of Moon should make a documentary with Grush soon. Yeah, that would be great. Gotta show proof, but you guys can never produce the goods. Thank you guys so much for being here, everyone. Blue Shift Radio, The Social Dig, I see you, buddy. Tony Mahoney, UFO John Doe. Thank you guys so much. Again, if none of you guys, if it's your first time here and you've liked what you've seen, definitely hit the subscribe button. Marcus, thank you for being here. Clump. This was a nothing burrito. Tom Johnson, dude, lost all credibility with the metal sphere. Let's investigate what she said. Kyle Furter, there's a full 3D simulation of the camera angles for Aguadilla, and the believers still cite it as anomalous. They're not serious people. I love you, but you're just not serious people. Totally a secession line. They're not. I love all of you believers, but you're just not serious people. That is perfect, Kyle. That is absolutely perfect. Absolutely perfect. Thank you for that comment, man. That was a good one. Zandy P, if Grush lied, he'll go to jail. Yeah, we just answered that question. Not necessarily true. Although I am interested to know, and I'd like to talk to Steve Long about this, just to shoot it back and forth. But the idea of, it took quite a lot of people to convince Congress to set aside real dollars, taxpayer dollars, to look at this. And now we've got NASA, an Aero office, and this has opened up a can of worms for more whistleblowers now to come out with this protection. And there's no penalty for being false with your stories or being incorrect, if you're going to make especially claims like this in the middle of an investigation. Like, if he's telling the truth, why not be patient and wait until the investigation's over and then make these claims and then go to the New York Times? No, they wanted to beat Stephen Greer to the punch, because Stephen Greer is going to say something tomorrow that's going to clash with this narrative big time. And I think it's going to shit all over it. But we'll see. We'll be here tomorrow at 11 a.m. So join us. It's going to be a lot of fun. Steve Long, thank you for being here. Blue Shift Radio, thank you for being here. Is there anyone I missed, guys? If I missed any super chats or anything like that, I tried to keep an eye on the chat as closely as possible. Man, we had a lot of people in here. And what's great is we had like 500 people in here, and I started talking shit on all of this, and we filtered out all of the people that don't belong in this show. So I think that was awesome, So I love that we annoyed the hell out of the believers on this show. Because trust me, you guys go beyond annoying. You guys go to sometimes harassing. And there's proof of that, and I think more of that's going to start coming out. But anyway, you guys, it's been a fun night. This was cool. This is the first time we've had a watch party, so I think it went pretty well. And it started the first time. We'll see what happens tomorrow. We'll see what happens tomorrow. I don't think I'll be able to post links to the show before the show happens. I think the show's just going to start, and then I'll have to send out the links. So we'll see. We'll see what happens tomorrow. Anyway, hopefully it works. You guys have a great night. I'll see you mañana. Again, like, share, subscribe. If you really want to support the show, there are links to a Patreon in the description below. We truly, truly appreciate all of the support that you guys have shown. It's been really, really cool. Obviously the more we can make that happen, the more we can do shows like this. And I had to subscribe to to level news to stream this for you guys. So yeah. And I'll probably never use this again. I got a free trial, so I might end the free trial. Anyway, you guys, I love you all. Have a absolutely killer night. Let's get some tunes going, shall we? All right, y'all. Peace.